In the late 1960s, when Los Angeles was glowing with sunshine and the sound of movie sets echoed through Hollywood Boulevard, a little girl named Anissa Jones became one of the city's youngest stars. Most people knew her as Buffy, the sweet, innocent child from the hit TV show Family Affair. She had that perfect smile, those bright eyes, and a doll named Mrs. Beasley that every kid in America seemed to want. On screen, everything looked pure and happy, but off-screen, her life was quietly falling apart in a way that Hollywood didn't want anyone to see. Anissa was born in Indiana, but her family moved to LA when she was little. Her parents split up not long after, and her mom pushed her into acting to keep things afloat. It worked. By age 8, she had a major TV role that millions watched every week. She became famous almost overnight. Producers loved her, fans adored her, and reporters called her one of the brightest young stars on television. But what nobody really thought about back then was what that kind of fame does to a kid. She'd spend long days on set memorizing lines, surrounded by adults telling her where to stand, how to smile, how to cry on cue. There wasn't much time for being a regular kid. Her life turned into a routine of school tutors, rehearsals, and public appearances. Her face was everywhere, on dolls, lunchboxes, and even cereal boxes. It looked like the perfect Hollywood story, but the truth was, the more famous she got, the less control she had over her own life. When Family Affair ended in 1971, Anissa was only 13. She should have been excited to move on to high school, hang out with friends, maybe start fresh. But instead, she was stuck in a weird space. To the world, she was still Buffy. Casting directors didn't see her as anyone else. They didn't want a teenage version of her. They wanted that little girl with the doll. When that ended, the offers stopped coming. Hollywood had already moved on to the next child star. At home, things weren't any easier. Her parents were constantly fighting over her money and custody. Court documents show she had money saved from the show, but it was locked away until she turned 18. That meant that for years, she was still technically rich but living like she wasn't. Her dad was more relaxed about things, her mom more controlling, and Anissa bounced between both worlds trying to find where she fit. When her dad died suddenly in 1974, it hit her hard. Friends later said she started drifting. She wanted freedom, but she didn't really know what to do with it. By 1976, she was finally 18 and had full control of her money. But by then, fame had already left her behind. She wasn't getting acting jobs, and she didn't want to chase them anymore. She just wanted to live like a normal person for once. Hang out, go to parties, be anonymous. But being famous that young changes the way people treat you. Everyone either wants to be around you because of who you were or can't stop reminding you of what you're not anymore. That kind of pressure builds up quietly, and that's exactly what happened to Anissa. On the night of August 27, 1976, Anissa went to a small party in Oceanside, a calm beach town south of LA. She was with her boyfriend and a few friends, just hanging out, laughing, trying to feel normal. No big crowds, no cameras, no spotlight. But by the next morning, she was gone. When friends went to check on her, they found her unresponsive. Paramedics came, but it was too late. She was only 18 years old. The coroner ruled it an accidental overdose, combined drug intoxication. There were several substances in her system, including barbiturates and other depressants, that slowed her body down until it just stopped. It wasn't some wild Hollywood party or scandalous event. It was a quiet night that turned tragic. When the news hit, it didn't even make huge headlines. Hollywood didn't want that kind of story front and center. It didn't fit the image. For most of the city, it was just another sad footnote. Another young actor gone too soon. A few months later, police traced some of the drugs in her system back to a doctor named Don Carlos Mochos, who was accused of illegally prescribing pills to patients who didn't need them. They charged him in October 1976, but before the case could go to trial, he died that December. With him gone, so was any chance of accountability. The case was closed quietly, and just like that, it faded from public attention. There was no Hollywood press conference, no big public outcry, no lessons learned, just silence. Her funeral was small and private, attended by her family and a few people from her acting days. Fans who remembered her from TV sent letters and flowers, but most people didn't even know she'd passed. A few years later, her younger brother Paul died from a drug overdose too, at just 24 years old. It was like the sadness that had hung over that family never really left. Looking back, what makes Anissa's story so painful is how preventable it feels. She wasn't a wild kid or a troubled starlet like tabloids love to invent. She was just a teenager trying to figure out life after being famous too young. Hollywood didn't protect her. It didn't know how. Back then, there were no real rules for child actors, no mental health checks, no one making sure the fame didn't swallow them whole. You worked, you smiled, and when the cameras stopped rolling, you were on your own. Today, when people rewatch Family Affair, they still see that same little girl who lit up the screen. Her scenes with her Uncle Bill, her sweet voice, her innocence, it all feels timeless. But behind that image was a kid who never got to grow up on her own terms. The industry that made her a star didn't know what to do with her once she stopped being one. And that's what makes her story so haunting. It's not about scandal, it's about silence. The kind of silence that happens when a city decides to move on instead of face the truth. Hollywood is full of bright lights and second chances, but for some, the spotlight burns too hot and disappears too fast. Anissa Jones was one of those people who got caught in the middle. She gave everything she had to a city that only remembered her as a character. She didn't get a big farewell, no Hollywood star, no tribute show, just reruns and old lunchboxes that keep playing the same happy scenes while her real story sits in the shadows. Her name deserves to be remembered, not just as Buffy from Family Affair, but as Anissa, the young woman who wanted to find her way after fame, who never got that chance. It's a story that says a lot about what this city gives and what it takes, because behind every famous smile in old Hollywood, there's a real person who might have been fighting to survive once the cameras turned off.